what's up, everybody? It's me, Erica. It is Wednesday, the 18th, I think. The 18th, I think. So I just wrapped this on my head real quick. What's going on, y'all? I wanted to talk about a few things today. Just some things that I saw and wanted to share my point of view about and get your perspective on this topic that I wanted to do more research, but I kind of wanted to include everybody in on it and let me know what you think, and then we can come back, I guess, and talk about it again. But I was watching well, first let me talk about the shit, and then we'll get to that later. So I want to talk about the Revolt Summit with Jeff Johnson, Candace Owens, Tamika Mallory, T.I., Killer Mike, and some other dude. I don't know who that guy is. I can't remember his name. And I should have looked his name up. No disrespect to him. But I didn't know who he was. What the fuck this is happening? I don't know what is going on. So what was I saying? Okay, what was I saying? All right, so what was I saying? What was I saying, guys? Oh, the Revolt Summit with T.I., Killer Mike, Tamika Mallory, Candace Owens, and the other dude. And it was a Revolt Summit, and I guess they were just talking about politics. I watched the whole thing, but I was in and out. I had it on, and I was watching it. And did you guys watch it? And what did you think about it? I love Killer Mike. I love his perspective on things. I think his perspective is needed within our community. But his point of view is really good. I see him as a moderate, conservative leaning type of person. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that this idea that black people are just liberals, because of I don't know. Anyways, I don't like the assumption. And I believe that on the stage there was Tamika Mallory is good. I think she's very well versed. I think she has the range. She didn't get to talk that much, unfortunately, because it seemed like T.I. wanted to be seen. It seemed like T.I. wanted he was trying to get a moment. That's what it seemed like to me. I think Killer Mike was a perfect person. Tamika Mallory. I even think Candace Owens, because to me, I've always said Candace will never go anywhere where there's black people, even though she claims that she's trying to get more black people to be conservative. She never goes on any black, dominated show. Like, she will not go on Roland Martin. He ain't gonna do nothing but holler at her anyway, but and talk over her. But she won't go on a show like his. She won't go on any shows where the host is black. She likes to speak to white men because they like to have an idea like, oh, this black woman who sees things our way. She's good. She's a good look for us. So they praise her in a way that emboldens her. So she, speaks loudly and she gets into these spaces, but she never gets into these spaces with black people. So I thought it was actually very good for her to be there. Unfortunately, because T.I. wanted a moment, she didn't get to articulate her thoughts. And she doesn't really, I believe that her and T.I. are intellectually on the same playing field, except for T.I. Speaks louder than her. Killer Mike kind of dominated the summit with his kind of little sermons in between, and I felt like they were needed. However, if you're gonna have somebody who's a showman on stage like T.I., you should not have an audience, because he's playing for the response from the audience. He's trying to get a moment, which I thought was really counterproductive to that. The question that he did have that was actually a pertinent question was, make America great again. What era or what time in America was America great for either indigenous people or dark skin colored Americans? When was it ever great? And Candace really couldn't answer the question, but Killer Mike answered the question. And wow. Killer Mike answered the question, and he answered it perfectly and said here was the time when black people were, thriving, and this was like 7 to 15 years after slavery. And isn't it, I think it's weird that they actually, after slavery ended, gave reparations to white people who owned slaves. Are there any stories about, that's off topic. Anyways, so overall, I thought that Killer Mike was productive. I thought what he was saying, but Tamika Mallory didn't get to talk, and she very much so has the range. And she didn't get to talk that much because I felt like T.I. was really a distraction on stage for me. I just don't see it for him. I don't give a damn how many thesaurus he reads through. He's just not somebody I look to I don't know. He's not, I don't know. Nice looking dude, but not my type of hype. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? And like, even with the question, when was America great for black people, he was still trying to get a moment. He just so happened to ask a question, and Candace couldn't answer it. She probably does not really know. When you start prefacing your answer with a bunch of other shit, you are talking a bunch of shit. Like, just answer the question. And for her, as a black woman, whether she sees a black woman when she looks in the mirror or not, she should be prepared to answer specifically that question. Like, okay, so when was America great for black folks? And it's like, and what I find really damaging about a lot of conservatives and Republicans, they have this almost this gang mentality. Even Democrats have this gang mentality when it comes to their party affiliation, that even though this man who is in office said he was not affiliated with any party, now he's decided that, I can have these Republicans surrounding me, so okay, I'm a Republican. And then they back him up on every single thing. And I think the majority of the reason why they back him up on every single thing is because here he is standing in the front line making all of these crazy gaffes and all of these things that don't make sense and that everybody focuses on every day. And behind Trump is policies and shit being made and things within the system that need to be eradicated, and he's standing in the front as a literal distraction. Like, he's literally a distraction. And I think that we contribute to that distraction by focusing so much on his behavior rather than the things that he's putting in place. Like, and that's what I wanted to talk about with Malcolm Gladwell. He was on the Breakfast Club, and he has a new book out called Talking to Strangers. And I want to get that book because he was talking about, it starts off with Sandra Bland. He talks about the Knox girl, Amanda Knox, Brock, what's the name? Brock Turner, and someone else he talks about in this book, and how people relate to each other when they meet a stranger, and how you don't know, specifically with cops, where they come from one culture and they are and they're exchanging and meeting people of another culture, and they have been taught within their culture to assume everybody is a suspect. 1, to not trust black people. 2, all of these ideas that come up within the culture of law enforcement. When you go into these communities and you're meeting people, what your idea of what could be suspicious behavioral, demonstrations are just basically people, interacting within their culture. And because you don't come from that culture, the cues are off. So you're not really a good judge of character because you're not embedded in that culture and you don't know people in that culture and how they act. Like with Amanda Knox, she was in Italy and they thought she was guilty based on she was innocent and thought she was guilty based just solely on her behavior. But she's from Seattle, and she's acting as if I'm not guilty, but to them it's a whole nother culture. To her behavior is guilty as fuck. Then he talked about Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers. I don't know if he still owns the Clippers, and I don't know what they did with him, but he talked about the fact that anyways, let me get back to the Revolt Summit because I want to talk about that too. The Revolt Summit, at the end of the day, I think they should do it again. I think this should be something that's, if they can, done done twice a year. And then I think you should allow reporters there, journalist reporters, people who are going to write, but also no audience of anyone who is not trying to write a story about it. Because again, when you have people on stage like in the likes of T.I. who are really, and I'm glad, and I don't even have to preface it. I'm glad that Candace kept telling him, you're really trying to get a moment, and then telling the audience, why are you guys booing at facts? It is a fact that slavery has happened all over the world, continues to happen all over the world. That's a fact. So why are you booing a fact? Like, oh, come on, can you go? Can you move over? God, lady, come on. What are you doing? Move over. Move over. Pull over. Pull over. Woo, Eddie Murphy, you would not be able to get them jokes off today. You would not. Pull over. You would not be able to get them jokes off today, baby. No. Well, actually, you probably could. And what is anybody going to do but stomp their feet and complain about it? But anyway, so yeah, overall, I thought it was a good start. I don't want people on stage who are like, Tamika Mallory's perfect. Even Candace was needed and it was perfect. Tip, not so much. Killer Mike, yes. The other guy, I think he was trying to feed off more of he was feeding off of T.I. too much and trying to get his little sermons off. I don't know who that guy was. I wish I knew more about him, but they should have had somebody in the LGBTQ community up there as well, because and that's it. But I think there should be some takeaways, also some resources I'm gonna go on the Revolt website when I get home, when I get to work, so I can see what do we take away from this summit? What are the resources we can access so that we can either contribute, participate, whatever we need to do, and what are the ideas so that we can move in the right direction? I think Jadena's idea about building schools for Black children so they can learn their history, they can learn another language. I think it's a detriment that there's so many Black people who only have one language, which is English, and it's like, a bastard language anyway. And I think that it's important for them to learn financial literacy as well and just go to Saturday school. And there's enough people who can funnel money into these organizations or into these schools to where, you can do fundraisers, you can do all of that stuff so that these kids can go to school on Saturday, even if it's just even an 8-hour day. There has to be more structure and more discipline. I think a lot of us are, for the lack of a better word, lazy or comfortable or complacent in this idea or this illusion of freedom. And we feel like, and even when Black people exercise xenophobia, it bothers me because it's like, you are really not in any place to say, who can be here and who cannot be here unless you are indigenous to this land. You have no space. I understand that we built this country, but at the end of the day, this is not our place if you are not indigenous to this land. If you don't know that you're indigenous or had some indigenous blood or in you, that's just what it is. And I think there is a sense of like, well, shit, I'm American. And it's not too far off from the way that how white people practice xenophobia. It's not too far off. And the idea that, you know, you don't know another language, you're telling people to speak English, this is America, like that kind of stuff. Like, are you serious? And then learning financial literacy and learning about their history so they can have a sense of pride. Even if you start off in American history, there's enough Black or, you know, American history that you can teach Black children about their history with, you know, that is not full of pain and suffering, and, you know, the identity of the identity to suffering that so many of us have is I think does us a detriment. Okay, but at the end of the day, you should have pride in your identity, and I don't think anybody is proud of the suffering, right? So there should be something else that's taught so that they can be proud to be Black. They don't have to believe that, you know, this is their destiny, how this country was set up, and the history of slavery and Jim Crow and Black codes and all of this stuff. Not only that is your history, but there's other parts and successful people and those things. And so there has to be some sense of pride. If you only identify with struggle, pain, slavery, and that's all you identify with, how far do you think that you can go anywhere? If all you identify is with, I'm a slave or I'm a descendant of a slave, great, that's wonderful. But what else are you proud about being a dark-colored American in this country? That's what my grandmother's birth certificate says. Dark-colored American, or dark-colored American. That's what my grandmother's birth certificate says. Not Black, not Negro. Dark-colored American. Crazy, huh? Anyways, so at the end of the day, was the Revolt Summit productive? It's a good start. You know, glad Puffy decided, and I'm glad that Candace accepted the invitation. I am. Killer Mike says something, even, you know, if we're 15% of the population, we should be represented at least 15% in every aspect of this country. If you're trying to get to that, you should, in politics, all of that, you should represent 15% in all aspects, not just in sports, not just in music, not just in acting or television, everywhere. And that brings me to this. I have an opinion about these Emmys that Beyonce was nominated for. We make all of these, here we are again, we make all of these ideas and opinions about, you know, television, music, film, and sports, and how, you know, I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to say it like this. Let's nominate Beyonce so that we can get Black people to watch the Emmys. We don't have any intention on giving her an award because her as an artist, she has gotten too vocal politically. So we're not going to give her, we'll nominate her so that we can get the emotional reaction from the people who love her so they can watch. But we're not going to give her any award. And these award organizations remind fans of Beyonce every single time that you love her, we don't. Every time. To me, I feel like how many people would have been slaughtered if that was a slaughtering house. Going to see Beyonce gets nominated for 6 Emmys and everybody rushes to the television to watch, to see, And it's just like, you took again, you keep taking the bait over and over and over and over and over again, and then getting so upset about Beyonce not getting these awards. These people do not love Beyonce. You love Beyonce. They don't love Beyonce. It doesn't matter what movies they put her in, what Super Bowl stages they put her on. It does not. They done taught you guys from the Grammys, American Music Awards, Emmys now. They have told you over and over again, we will use Beyonce to get the viewership, and you guys will fall for it every single time, and then have another emotional reaction to the fact that she didn't get any rewards, and create more promotion around the award organizations. Just keep using black people, because we identify and we are so attached to our emotions and our thoughts that we are so emotionally reactive to almost everything that does not really matter at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, don't we say, fuck these organizations? They're ran by white people, white old men, white old ladies. Fuck these organizations. Okay, let's nominate Beyonce. Okay, let's go look at Beyonce. Okay, let's not give Beyonce any awards. Okay, let's be mad at the awards organizations again. A fucking circle, and doing it willingly every single time. You know it, and you know it, and you know it's gonna happen, and yet still here you are, ready to get slaughtered again. How many times do you guys got to get slaughtered to understand that these motherfuckers don't love Beyonce? You love Beyonce. They don't. Period. And that's it. That is it. So that brings me to talking about how we deal with racism. So the Malcolm Gladwell, there was a part in that interview where he said, after he said it, it's so funny how you can just listen to someone and they really plant a seed to get you to start thinking and looking and researching and observing and stepping back outside of things and really focusing on, like, okay, he said that, and he used Donald Sterling as an example. Donald Sterling in the 80s had lawsuits and settled lawsuits against him that says he was discriminating against black people in his housing complexes. And settled. So are we going to say he's going to say that he was guilty? All right. But he was allowed to continue to own the Clippers. He was allowed to continue all of the shit. And the thing that brought him down was a recording of him saying some racist shit to his girlfriend. And that's what took him down. So his example, or in his theory, is that we care more about somebody being personally racist than actually exercising racism within the system, right? We care more about somebody being personally racist than we do about systematic racism. Because why wasn't anybody saying anything when Donald Sterling was kicking, or even Trump, not allowing black people to rent in his properties? Donald Trump did the same thing. You care more about what he says personally about a person than him exercising racism within a system, so that he uses a system to exercise racism. Does that make sense? So my thing was, did I ask the question? Do we worry about personal racism over systematic racism? And if so, why? Why do we care if, now listen, this is a country that was really built on racism, like seriously built on race, right? And this group of people who look different from this group of people, and we're going to create this idea that there is a race. And now we're going to use this to make sure that we keep these people marginalized and oppressed, and we are going to use our race to uplift us and say that we are better than these people, we're smarter than these people, we're more human than these people. That's racism. And we're going to create systems so that we can keep it going. Remember I said last week that racism is a self-sustaining system. It doesn't need anyone's at the fucking helm. It doesn't need anyone to control it. It's on its own. It has a life of its own because there's so many systems in place that allow it to continue. And we focus more on Donald Trump calling black athletes sons of bitches, right? Rather than focusing on the system of him being blackballed because of whatever, for what his actions were, whatever. Using Colin Kaepernick as an example, right? So why is it that we care more about somebody being personally racism and being personally racist, being that this country was built on racism? More than likely, people in their 80s are racist or bigots. More than likely. So to act shocked and appalled when a white man in the privacy of his home says he doesn't want to see you on Instagram with these niggers or with black people and don't bring these niggas to the games, or being shocked that this governor in Virginia had blackface on in college. That's another example Malcolm Gladwell said. It's like, you care more about the blackface than you do about the system of racism. And why is that? And I found it so interesting, and I was looking and I was like, God damn, yeah. And then Charlamagne said, we do it with Trump every day. And we do. The news media pays so much attention on his narcissism and his behavior and what he says out of his mouth than the other things that are actually damaging to society and Americans in the entire world. In the entire country. Why is it that we are like that? I don't, because to me, I feel like, and then, like saying, well, I want to know if somebody is racist. That's great. But I want to know if you are exercising racism to keep somebody from getting a job. That I care more about that than you being racist at home. Or like him saying, you care more about the person who is exercising, using the example, I care more about you using racism to keep somebody from getting a job than if you have a Confederate flag in your basement. Because you should just expect that. To me, I always, and it may not be the right way to approach it, but for my safety, every person that I meet who's not black, I assume that you are anti-black in some way. I don't care if you're white, Mexican, Latino. You have some level of anti-blackness in some way, because that's what this country is. It runs on anti-blackness. It does. And it just does, from the beginning. And I just wondered why we focus so much. And I thought it was interesting because I feel like I do that too. I feel like I do that too. And I think we should focus more on the system of racism. What do you guys think? Do you think that people do that? I feel like we do. I feel like we do worry about it more. So what do you think about that? Beyonce losing. That's what I said. I wanted to talk about that. The Revolt Summit. And then this Jeannie Mai, the girl from The Real or The Talk? The Real. The Talk is with Sarah Gilbert, right? The Real. Because Tamar was on that with Tia and Bailon, Adrian. So she's with Jeezy now. But there was a clip running around with her saying that she married white, so that, she goes with black men for fun, as a treat, and then that's why she married white. So that was going around, and I'm like, but remember I told you there's black men don't mind being objectified. They don't mind being used for their big black cocks. They don't care. So even if somebody comes out and says, I'm not going to marry a black man because I use him for fun, and that's why I married white, because I need a little bit more stability. That's basically what she said. I hope that Jeezy saw that so he could understand what his position is with her, that he's just a fun boy, because the way that she talks about him, all of these adjectives as if to say, he's not this nigger that you think he is. He's this, and he's this, and he's lovely, and he's fun, and he's smart, and he's intellectual, and he's and I was like, oh, okay, so you're trying to say he's not the nigger you think we think he is. That's what you're trying to tell the world. I think, I'm like, okay, whatever, to each his own. I don't care. At the end of the day, you should understand that your partner sees you as a fun bag, and that's it. So, but he looks happy, and whatever. That's just, I don't know. I just thought it was weird, and I thought it was very telling, because she's not the only one who believes like that. There are a lot of women who use black men as the fun toy, but see, black men have, some black men are okay with that, because they see like, oh, somebody wants me, and that brings me closer to whatever I feel looks more like privilege than oppression. So I'm down with that. Let me go for the non-black lady. That's just a theory that I have. But at the end of the day, you're gonna do what you want to do, and you out on the beach taking pictures. I was like, okay, Jeezy, do she know if she listens to any of his songs? I saw Fat Joe this morning on the Breakfast Club, and I haven't finished watching it. I think he is so funny. He's a Leo. I had to look up his sign, because I thought he was a Libra, because he's just very much a storyteller. I could probably listen to him. If he had a podcast, listen to him tell stories. But he told this story about him being in jail, and how this man came up to him telling him he didn't like the way he was acting in jail or whatever. And he said he just flipped out and started acting like he was crazy. And was like, I'm gonna need 99 more niggas like you for you to get in my face. Who the hell you think you are? And then he said, the guy who told him that was like really, really big, bigger than him, way bigger than him. And he said, then he like put his shoe, because the guy said he didn't like the way he was walking around with his Jordans on. So Fat Joe said he went and put his Jordans on, went back over there to where that nigga was, and was doing jumping jacks, telling him, I need 99 more niggas like you, because he wanted, acting like he was gonna fight him or whatever. That shit was so funny to me. I was laughing this morning. He was telling different stories and stuff like that. Really funny dude, Fat Joe. I don't want to hear in anything that he's done 10 or 15 years ago. I'm talking about the person that I saw today was funny to me. Okay? What I saw today was funny. Anyways, what else is going on, y'all? Did I have anything else to talk about? Let me see. I was writing down different things. Oh yeah, during that, let me get over. Also, during that interview with Malcolm Gladwell, he said that he asked Angela and Charlemagne, and apparently this was a thing that happened with Hitler or something, where it's like, you ask, would you rather, if you had to do an interview with someone, would you like to interview all of the people that they know around them, or would you like to interview that person? And do you think that you would get more from that person or their friends, if you were to interview their friends? Oh God. Thank you. And I thought it was interesting, because I feel like if you interview a person, they're not gonna give you everything, but different people in your life, they're gonna give bits and pieces about how you presented to them and different situations. And that's probably, do you think that your friends can give an accurate story about you, or if they had unlimited access to anybody that knew you, has ever known you, come across you, would they find out more about you than just interviewing you on your own with no one else? I thought that was interesting. So what would you do? What else? Yeah, I thought that was interesting when Killer Mike said, would you, and it really is like, you, a Democrat and Republican, you guys are arguing over who has the best master. I thought that was very interesting. But does Killer Mike still support Bernie Sanders? I don't know. So there's been, I don't like to talk about politics because I just think it's, like I said, it's nothing but, it's a reality show. It's a reality show, and I really don't care too much, but, you know, people like, I don't know, you want to feel involved. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, I don't have anything else to say, and I'm not going to try and figure out something else to say. The sun is in my eyes. I'm gonna go now. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care of each other, protect your energy, and we'll talk down in the comments. All right, peace. Where are my glasses? I can't see.